Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So, the sharp-eyed among you will probably have already noticed I've got a rack of clothing over here. And we're going to get to that. But let me start with a little bit of Audie news for the Audie fans. He decided he wanted to go out first thing this morning. So I get up and he's already at the door screaming to be let out. And I'm glad because it's going to be hot today. But Audie doesn't seem to know that yet. So as far as I'm concerned, get him out, get his outdoor time while it's still reasonably cool and comfortable, and he'll be happy. And then later in the afternoon when it gets hot, he'll crawl under the bed or whatever it is he does when he's miserable. So delighted to see my boy go out. But he gave me quite a little treat this morning because I got a chance to watch him stalk and eat a grasshopper. Very exciting. He runs halfway across the yard, stops, like dead stop, and then gets down on his belly and then starts slinking through the tall grass. The grass is going to be cut today, so it's tall. Slinking through the tall grass and suddenly pounces on something. Now I've got no idea what he's pouncing on. But of course, he started chewing on it and brought it back to me, and I realized, yeah, it's a cricket. He found himself a bug for breakfast. He was so pleased with himself. All right, that's the end of my Audie news. We are going to take a break for the intro, and we'll be right back. So, the rack of clothing. We are going to talk about this. I don't think I'm going to pull stuff off the rack and turn this into some, sort of crazy, let's jump around with a camera kind of video, because I'm not so good at that, frankly. But I did pull everything out because I thought it might be a good idea if we took a look at thrifting online. Now, the concept of online shopping is great, but it's got its problems. The concept of online thrifting, wow, even better, but that's got its problems too. And I thought, since I recently started thrifting online, this is not something I did 10, 15 years ago. I don't even think it was possible 10 or 15 years ago. But the last few years, yeah. So I started branching out a little from my initial forays into thrifting online. My initial forays, as I imagine most of you already know, it was, gee, how many designer scarves can I get and where can I get them from? So yeah, I would shop in places like The Real Real or Poshmark, where I was able to get some really high-end pieces for, well, pennies on the dollar, frankly. And I had a great time with that. I thought that was absolutely marvelous. I'm not going to say that all of my shopping was entirely problem-free. There were some issues, but overall, the positives outweighed the negatives, at least for what I was doing. Because keep in mind, I was not buying blue jeans online. I was buying mostly silk scarves. Very, very limited batch of products. And when you're dealing in such a small universe, it's very easy to learn to spot the problem areas so that you walk away from them before you've made a problematic purchase. When you're looking at things more globally, I am going to go online. I am going to shop for used clothing. Yeah, there's a learning curve here. So I wanted to talk about ThredUp. They are not the only company out there where you can buy used clothing, but that's the one I started experimenting with. And for those of you who are saying, oh, good Lord, Sue, are you taking sponsorships? No, of course not. And by the way, it's going to take you about, maybe 30 seconds into the review to realize that's definitely not the case. But they are the main player. And when you go on YouTube and watch the kinds of videos that you and I watch, you are going to see a lot of content creators who are getting sponsorships, and they are touting the benefits. Ouch, motorcycle. It's so early in the morning, and we've got a motorcycle out there. Oh. Anyway, you see influencers hawking this company. It's like, oh, look, ThredUp, isn't this fab? And so that's where I started. And I took my own advice, which I'm going to give you now. Never shop anywhere until after you've read their reviews. And the reviews were not good. So I knew going in when I started shopping with ThredUp that I was going to have to just go in there with such a caveat emptor mindset that it was going to be more adventure in, like 1940s gumshoe detective than actually a fun shopping jaunt. But I'm okay with that. I am absolutely okay with that. I like the idea of thrifted clothing to begin with. I've shared with you before that my grandmother used to take me thrifting when I was very young. And we would go places, we would get things. It was an adventure with my grandmother, which was always fun. But as I grew older, I came to realize that my grandmother was able to expose me to fashion styles that I was not seeing in my late 60s, early 70s adolescence. Because you remember what clothing was like back then. Just Bozo the Clown. That's what was going on. But my grandmother would take me to thrift stores, and I would see fashions from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. And I wasn't locked into that, Carnaby Street, London vibe that was all over the place when I was a teenager. A lot to be said for it. And as I got older and realized I don't want my style to be dictated by whatever some marketing wizards on Madison Avenue are telling me is the new fashion trend, thrifting got even more appealing. So I was already favorably disposed to this. Seeing those abysmal reviews did not dissuade me, but it did convince me that this is not an undertaking for the faint of heart. Let's just say that. And by the way, I left a review for ThredUp myself and gave them only 3 stars. And we'll get into why that is in a bit. But let me start with, I made 2 purchases from ThredUp. The first purchase I made was 2 pair of trousers, and they are right over here on the rack. I will talk about them later because if I start talking about them, I won't be able to break away and get into the sort of global issues I want to talk about. This is not about, look at my new thrifted trousers. This is about how to approach this, how to make successful purchases, and how not to end up with cash missing from your wallet and a lifetime of regrets. So, we'll put that aside. But I will say, though, that purchase, those 2 pair of trousers I started off buying, that was enough to convince me that I should give this another chance. And I did. The shirt I am wearing right now is from ThredUp. I got this, it is linen. So, nice piece, right? Here's the thing. The picture I just showed you is a photo of this blouse after I got it, washed it, pressed it, and reshaped it a little. It is not reflective of what it looked like when it arrived on my doorstep. No, no, no. This is what arrived at my doorstep. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, it was a little worse because the photograph I just showed you is the photograph from the ThredUp site. Now, I've spoken to you all before about this. When I buy something online, I download their photos. And I do that for 2 reasons. One, that's how I organize my wardrobe. I do it on my computer, and that way I don't have to go trashing through my closet. And also, I can cross-check my closet. When I look in my files and I see something that is not showing up in my closet, then, well, I do have a thieving cat. That's a fact. And I was just thinking about that this morning, by the way, because this is not as comfortable as I would like. One of the problems with linen is sometimes it can be scratchy. Best way to deal with that is soak your linen in Coke, like Coca-Cola, not cocaine. Yeah, I know. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, gee, is cocaine really all that much worse than Coca-Cola? Yeah, well, yes, some of you will remember that can of Coke that I kept on the bookcase. That was my trophy. I kept that up there. Oh, gosh, it had to be at least a year because Audie stole that can of Coke. And it was just plain old regular Coca-Cola. I use the sugar-free Diet Coke Zero, whatever. I don't drink sugar soda. But because I was using it to soften linen, that's what that Coke was for. That was my linen softening Coke. Yeah, I went with the original recipe. So my bad boy stole it. I finally got it back from him, and I kept it up on the bookcase. It was my trophy. It was, I won. I got the Coke back. Yeah, it's gone now. Obviously, he's stolen it again. I have no idea where it is, and we're going to go through that adventure again, because last time, what happened was he would dig the Coke out of the hiding spot, bat it around the house, and I was never able to catch it in time. I was always afraid because, those aluminum cans are not very thick. This is very thin. It's like paper-thin aluminum. And it doesn't take much, like maybe a cat claw, to pierce that can, and I will have a mess of sugar, not just regular Coke, but sugar Coke, spilled out all over in some little hidey hole, the back of a closet, wherever Audie takes his goodies and secures them. And then I'll have bugs, and so I'm very concerned about this. But I can't seem to persuade him to give up the Coke. It was easier when I had a dog. When a dog steals something, you can very quickly train them to trade it to you for a cheese bit. And that's what I used to do with our dog. That dog would do anything for a little wedge of Laughing Cow cheese. Oh, yum. And so when the dog would steal something, she would just bring it to me. It's like, here, look, I have stolen something. Give me cheese for this. It was win-win. Audie is not a dog. He cannot be bribed. All right, so much for that digression. But anyway, this piece, when it came in, looked a whole lot worse than that thread up listing photo. It was wrinkled. You know what it looked like? If you put your things, everybody's done this at least once. I know I have. You put your clothes in the wash and, you know, it goes through the spin cycle and you've forgotten. You did something, you got distracted. 3 days later, you open the washer and you say, good Lord, I can't believe I did this. And you're not putting it in the dryer. You are rewashing that load. That's what my thread up purchases looked like. And to be fair, the first purchase, the 2 pair of wool trousers, were also really scruffy looking. And by that, I don't mean the pieces themselves were poor quality or they were badly used. No, they were practically new, but they were so mishandled. Crying shame. However, I can deal with mishandled clothing. I grew up with brothers, so yeah. But that was the story of this. I went online in the first place because it's been miserably hot here, and I really wanted to get some summer shirts. And my style, the style I gravitate toward, is more winter friendly than summer friendly. So for me, looking for summer clothing is a chore. It's a challenge. I don't like doing it. I don't like the clothing. I look at this and I'm not looking at the clothing saying, oh, isn't that cute? I must have it. I'm looking at this saying, ew, I don't really like that. Let's go over and look at the wool. Which is why I started off buying wool trousers. All right. Anyway, so looking at these things, and I got another linen shirt as well. Here, let me show you a picture of that. And I will show you the pictures side by side. What it looked like after I cleaned it up, what it looked like in the listing photo. You're just going to have to use your imagination when it comes to what it looked like when I received it. Because, yeah, it really did look like it had been forgotten in the bottom of a washer for like a week. But because that was the only problem, mishandled, not poor quality or used past the point of usefulness, no. Almost everything I got was either outright new or very, very close to it. So it was just mishandled. And I make a point of saying that because I want you to understand, if you buy from these people, you're not going to buy it, take it out of the bag, and hang it in your closet. That's not what's going to happen. You're going to take it out of the bag, and you are going to have a lot of work to do before you hang it in your closet. Just be prepared for that. So the other linen blouse, as you can see, this is more of a tunic. I got that because despite the fact that I have very little in the way of clothing suitable for our current weather situation, which is somewhere between 95 and 100 degrees, it's probably going to get to be 100 today, I have plenty of tank tops. And even though, frankly, this is going to sound so ageist, and yeah, it is. I don't believe that a woman my age ought to be walking the streets in a skin-tight tank top. I think some things are best left to the imagination. So if I'm going to wear a tank top, I'm not going to leave the privacy of my own home, or I'm going to have to throw something over it. And that's why I got that other linen piece. Just, it's like a beach cover-up. It's something that I can throw over myself with a little skinny tank top and not feel like I am offending society. So, yeah, that one too. While I was looking for linen, because I was there, I grabbed a couple of silk shirts as well. So one of them was this Tommy Bahama piece, and the other was a really nice Lala silk shirt that I did not need, but I bought anyway. So from the listing photos, you can see that 3 of them came scrunched up and, well, not very appealing when they came out of the package. The designer silk shirt, by the way, still had the $298 price tag on it. And that arrived smelling like something dead. Like recently dead, still decomposing dead. I did not dare bring it in the house. You know why? Because I have a cat. If I brought that in the house, my cat would probably have peed on it. The smell was at that level. It was the cat is going to mark his territory on this piece of clothing. It's dreadful. I ended up soaking it in a bucket outdoors before I would even put it in my washing machine. And yeah, came out fine, mind you, but the smell was horrific. That's why when I left my review for ThreadUp, they only got 3 stars. And I was, in fact, feeling generous. I would have to say I should have only given them 2 stars. They should have lost a lot more because of the condition in which they were shipping out these items. Because it wasn't just the 4 tops I bought most recently. It was the 2 pair of trousers I had bought prior to that. These were all great items. That silk blouse still had the tags on it. It was brand new. So how could it be so, and I do mean like repulsive in its odor? Because it's being mishandled somewhere in the ThreadUp warehouses. That's all there is to it. And they should be ashamed of themselves because these are good quality items. So once I got everything in, got everything properly laundered, I did not wash the trousers, by the way. I have this dry cleaning bag that I can do in my dryer. I don't use heat when it's wool, but you throw in the little dryer sheets, throw it in the bag, etc. I haven't seen that in a while. I don't think they make those any longer, but they did 30 years ago, and I've still got that set up. But they did have to be cleaned and blocked, and they did need some minor repairs. And I'm happy with them. But everything needed attention. If you don't know what you're doing when it comes to care and maintenance of clothing, don't buy from ThreadUp. However, if you do know what you're doing, you can get fabulous deals. Now, I think the tragedy in this, because as I say, I've read their reviews, the tragedy is the people selling on that site are shipping items out to ThreadUp in good condition. And then their items are not selling or selling for a fraction of what they're worth because ThreadUp is mishandling the items. They're getting in items that are probably very, very carefully packed. They've been freshly laundered and pressed and whatever because conscientious sellers are doing this. And then ThreadUp is taking this stuff, throwing it in a barrel or a bag or on the floor for all I know, and then pulling it up, taking crap pictures, and then putting that online. So the reality is, what we as buyers are seeing is not necessarily the product that some other private individual as a seller is putting out there. It's that middleman, it's ThredUp, who is abusing this stuff. So yeah, they probably deserved lower than 3 stars from me. As far as ThredUp goes, they should do time in hell for their abuse of beautiful vintage items. Lots of time in a very dark ring of hell, because they are making money doing this. Are they earning their money? Hell no. No. They would be earning their money if they were actually treating the items they are selling with a little tiny bit of respect. I would say yeah. So, as you can see, this is not a ThredUp endorsement. They are never going to sponsor this channel, not after what I have to say about it, and I don't take sponsorships anyway, so I don't care. But having just mentioned all of that, let's walk away from that for a moment and talk about how to make this work for you. Now, I bought 6 items of clothing from them for a total of about $120 to $125 US. And I will put the conversion up for you, but I don't want to distract myself with that right now. An average of approximately $20 per item. Some items were more expensive. That fancy silk blouse, oh yeah, I paid more for that. But overall, I really felt I got my money's worth. I have no problem with that. In fact, with the 2 pair of trousers, I got a lot better than my money's worth. Very pleased with that. Do I feel cheated in any way? No, because I knew going in that I was probably going to be faced with issues when the items arrived, and I was perfectly fine about moving forward with the purchase. This, however, was my one disappointment in all of those 6 pieces, and it's not even a serious disappointment, but I had a great deal of difficulty figuring out what color this piece was based on the listing photo. Turns out it's gray. The only gray item I have in my entire wardrobe, but hey, now I've got a piece of gray clothing in there. And if you will notice, this shirt is in front of another shirt that is much larger. All right, so those 2 shirts are both Tommy Bahama. The shorter, smaller gray shirt is an extra large. The larger maroon shirt behind it, and you can clearly see from the photo how much longer that was, men's shirt, large. Here's the problem. I didn't notice, and this is 100% on me, I did not notice that the gray shirt was a women's shirt. I could have figured that out. All I had to do was pay attention to the way the shirt was buttoned. I am not particularly accustomed to doing that online because images are often reversed online. You go on the internet, you see reversed images all the time. So I don't necessarily consider that a trustworthy indicator. I wish I had just at least given a little thought. Was that a disaster? Did I throw away 22 whole dollars? No, not even close. It fits. It's shorter than I like. This is a shirt that will have to be tucked in because it's going to look dreadful if it isn't. But that's okay. I can live with that. Hey, 2 pair of nice wool trousers, why not? But that was 100% on me. You have to be careful. You have to be diligent. And that, I think, is the whole point of what I'm trying to express to you. You need to look very carefully. I got clothing that was practically new or absolutely new. I got clothing that was in great condition, even though there were undisclosed flaws. One of those lovely pair of wool trousers had it had a missing button, and the other button, the one that still remained, had been moved by a previous owner. Yeah, ordinarily that would be information I would like to know. And if I were buying an item like this from an individual reseller, I would be really annoyed if they did not pass that information along to me. It's okay. The moved button was well done, and I can, in fact, deal with this. That's why I don't feel like showing those trousers off. They still do need a couple of touches here and there to get them into pristine condition. But that's all they need. If you know how to shop, you can go on a place like ThredUp. You can pick out the nicer pieces. So look for things like new or excellent condition. Most of what I got was like new, barely used. One item still had the tags. I'm very happy with that part of ThredUp's descriptions. When the things came in, I knew that everything was going to have to be washed. It's no problem. It was silk and linen. I know how to wash silk. If you don't know how to wash silk, that's a dry cleaning bill for you. And there were 2 silk blouses in that last lot, so that was an expensive dry cleaning bill. If you add that to the 2 wool trousers from the previous little shopping adventure, yeah, I could have spent more dry cleaning the 4 items that required it than I paid for the entire lot of clothing. That would not surprise me if that had happened. It did not, because I don't have anything against dry cleaning. Sometimes it is necessary, but I would prefer to take care of my own clothing myself in my own home. So thank you very much. I'll save the dry cleaning bill. If you're not prepared for that, you could be really just wasting your money. If I had to pay to have, let me just give you an example, the Tommy Bahama shirt. If I had to pay to have that dry cleaned, that's a women's shirt. I would be paying more to have that dry cleaned than I would if it were a men's shirt. That's just a fact. That's a reality in the dry cleaning industry. Women have known that for decades. Would that still have been such a good purchase if I took the $22 and change I paid for the top, added to the, $25 or $30 I would have paid to have it dry cleaned? By the way, that is 2025. If you're watching this in 2028, yeah, the price has probably gone way up. Would that still have been a good deal at $55 to $60 when the shirt behind it, that's right over here, this is, in fact, that maroon Tommy Bahama camp shirt, brand new, $70. No, it wouldn't be such a good deal. Because right now, this is the time of year when you can get these things on sale. So, no, you have to be prepared to cope with what you're going to get. And what you're going to get is not going to be pristine clothing. Even the silk blouse with the tag still on it had to be soaked in a bucket of soapy water on my patio to allow me to bring it into the house without running the risk that my cat would have considered it an enemy combatant and peed on it. Yeah. Oh, that was Oh, somebody's going to help her that. Brand new designer blouse, still in the tags, and that's the condition in which they shipped it out. Be prepared. So, I'm going to stop at this point, and I think we'll probably pick up on this tomorrow because I really feel like there is a lot more to get into because I've told you what to watch out for, but I don't feel like I've told you how to avoid these pitfalls. And what good is saying it's dangerous out there if you're not going to say, and here's how you can avoid it. Here's what to look for. So I think we'll just pick that up tomorrow. All right. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I hope to see you all tomorrow for part 2 of this. Audie, my bad boy, is sitting out on the porch rail. And by the way, he is, I can see him through the window. He's refusing to make eye contact with me, which tells me he still wants to stay outside. That's what he does. If he doesn't want to come in, he will refuse to make eye contact. Sometimes he will actually turn around and show me his backside. It's like, I am ignoring you. He's very flamboyant about it because he doesn't want to come in just yet. So we'll have to see. All right. Slideshow. We hope to see you all tomorrow. Meantime, have a terrific day.